I'm Dave,
And I'm Tammy.
and we're here to talk about the latest Stevenson Vestal Vako cordless control lift systems for Roman shades. Tammy, if you have some questions, I've got some answers.
Awesome. Let's jump right in and tell us what's new at Stevenson Vestal.
All right, here's what's going on. We have these two systems. The first is the spring, and the second is the crank, and they both have their best uses. We're going to talk about that in some detail, and they are in contrast to the other systems we've been selling, such as the Rollies. Last year we introduced the Vako, both of which have the traditional chain loop control, and these new systems, by contrast, are cordless control, and they are really one step ahead of the evolving child safety standards, and they're going to be fully compliant when that new standard goes into effect.
Can you tell us a little bit about the Vako hardware?
Sure. So just backing up a little bit, we have been selling the Vako system, but in the traditional loop chain control. But let's just talk about what it is. It's a sealed headrail system, and here it is, and you can see it right there, and
Oh, it
there's
is
no
awesome.
fuss and no muss. Everything is contained inside the headrail. It's a 1 3/8 inch projection, so that's a slim headrail, and everything is out of the way. All of the moving parts are sealed up in that headrail, and that's what makes it special.
And how is the headrail different from the Rolly system?
Right, so our traditional rollies, we have been using that, by the way, for decades. It's been a workhorse for us, it's been a great product, it's been our default list system. In the rollies, all of the parts are exposed underneath a mounting board, and that makes it prone to some difficulties, and we sometimes have to repair or adjust the mechanisms. However, the amazing thing is we've actually been selling this Vako system for about 2 years now as the chain loop control, and we just haven't had these things come back to us. They just zero returns for repair or adjusting the components inside those sealed headrails, and that's just amazing to me. That's magic. It's just amazing to me.
What about Stevenson Vestal's history with the cordless and cordless control systems?
Okay, that's really an interesting subject to me personally. We've been involved for about really more than 15 years working on different cordless and cordless control lift systems, and we're just really excited about this latest version that we're involved with. We've worked really hard to engineer our part of making these shades, great shades for folks to have and use, and just really excited to get to this point in our history with these products.
And what is the difference between cordless control and just cordless?
Right. Cordless means no cords, and we've been involved with those kinds of products. These new systems that we're introducing now are cordless control, and what we mean by that is that there are lift cords that are protected for child safety, just like our other products. But to actually raise and lower them, to actually control them, there's no cords involved. In the case of the crank, there's this lovely articulated crank arm, which I love. It's really fun, and if you like Legos, you will love this. And it's just a really nice piece of hardware. And in the case of the spring, inside of the headrail are hidden some spring mechanisms that allow you to actually manipulate the product directly with your hands, and in that case the lift system is sort of you, and in both those cases the raising and the lowering does not involve cords.
Okay. Um, let's talk a little bit more about the lift cords. I understand they're not prohibited in the current or any upcoming safety standards, and why is that?
Yeah, it seems a little counterintuitive at first, but the way that works is that lift cords are allowed provided they are child safe in some fashion, either through a sheathing or some other means. We're using some other means. We're using something called ring locks, and there they are in the shade right here. And what they do is they prevent prying hands from trying to pull the lift cord out, and that's how the safety standard allows that component on these shades.
And those are used on the crank, with the crank system as well?
Actually, yes, but also on all 4 of our current lift systems, these 2 and the Rollies and the Vako that each have the chain loop control. They all have these ring locks. That's our chosen method to both comply with the safety standard and to provide a child-safe product, which, by the way, everyone wants kids to be safe. Of course,
Exactly.
Of course they do. And that's how that is achieved.
And what about the uses for the spring versus the crank?
Right, let's really talk about the details of that. Because it seems to me that there is a shade for everyone here in the world of cordless control, because there's sort of best uses for each of these. So in the case of the spring, what we're finding is that it is really ideal for smaller or single window sizes, and really needs to be limited to that to make a successful product. But there's a huge in terms of the number of shades we make, I think it's something like 80% of the shades fall within the size limit that we set, which is 50 inches wide by 72 long, with some exceptions. But we are working with the laws of physics and the amount of things that can be crammed into that headrail, which has to not only include multiple spring mechanisms for the correct amount of strength, but also the spools that have the lift cords on them, and it's all inside the headrail. And there's a second reason why this needs to be size restricted, which is the human element, because I mentioned you are effectively the lift system, and you wouldn't, as a person, it needs to be human scaled. So you don't want to have a person lifting up a 12-foot wide shade. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
There's a certain limit to how much a person wants to deal with in that case. Now, the crank offers a different solution, and it has a superb ease of use. I love that thing, but it's because it takes no effort. There's very little strength involved in order to make use of that crank, and therefore it can be used on any reasonably sized shade. We have other limits that we impose on shades because nobody wants a 16-foot wide shade. It makes no sense. You want a drapery for that sort of thing. So, but effectively, for any size shade that you're thinking about making, the crank is something that provides this very easy raising and lowering, very little effort. So where the one spring is this lovely idea, you just simply put your hands on it, you raise and lower it. The crank offers this other option where this just doesn't make sense, or technically, is something we can't make.
And it seems like anyone with mobility issues would benefit from
the crank. That's right. So that's an issue where your end customer, the person that's actually, there's a human being who's going to use these things, and they want it to be great. They want it to be just lovely. Well, if you are a person who has any kind of mobility issues, you don't want to maybe even be thinking about, I'm going to pull this thing down, I'm going to push it back up. The crank is a great solution for that.
Awesome. How would you contrast these two cordless control systems with the traditional chain loop control system?
Well, here's something that just surprises me is I think there's been this incredible pressure on the entire window covering industry to come up with child-safe products, and that was a motivating factor for these things coming into existence, and yet they're really cool. They're great. They're their own thing. They, in their own ways, both of these systems surpass what has been available until now. On the one hand, you have this lovely idea. You just simply raise and lower the product with your hands. On the other, there's nothing that beats that crank for ease of use. It surpasses. When you have a traditional product and you're pulling on that cord, that loop cord, there's effort involved. It's easier you know, there's a clutch involved, and it does take some of the weight off of it, but you're still doing a certain amount of effort. The crank is superior in that regard. So both of them are offering something new that's never, you know, it's come about because people were trying to solve a safety issue for kids. And on the other hand, these new products bring something new into the world, and I think that's really exciting.
Awesome. Now, big question.
The question.
The
question.
question. Exactly. Where can people find these things to order their wonderful shade?
Right. And maybe learn a little bit more on our website.
Exactly, yes.
We have videos besides this one that we're making today. We have other videos that show more about this product, both of these, and we also have some blog posts that talk about it. And then we have in our active customer section of the website, we have an updated price catalog where you can learn about the pricing of these and the written specifications as we put it into our price catalog. So that's available now, and if you are unfamiliar with how to access that, or you need information about doing that, your customer service rep is your best bet, and that person can guide you into also any questions you might have about placing an order. So there you go.
Great. Thank you so much for this information.
Thanks, Tammy. You're great.
You're great.
All right. We're going to see you in the next video.
Bye, guys.